Hi, my name is Ashton. I'm a fourth year honors political science student with a double minor in economics and history, and this is my experience. So, I interned at the Canadian Permanent Mission to the International Organizations in Vienna, which is a bit of a mouthful to say the least, but essentially I attended meetings of the International Atomic Energy Agency, the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty Organization, as well as the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. I attended meetings of those and represented Canada, and then went to those meetings, analyzed reports, and then sent those back to Ottawa. So very, very, very cool experience right there. In terms of one particular moment, perhaps, that was a standout, we had a CCPCJ conference, which was organized by the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Essentially different academics, professionals, professors coming from around the world, coming to speak to us about different problems that are going on in the world. So in that sense, it really opened my eyes to hear about different trends in child trafficking, very disturbing ones, things that are happening in Europe with migration. And so it was good to hear things from a political standpoint throughout the summer, but more so from an academic or a professional more professional perspective was interesting to say the least. People from all around the world, from Sweden, from Finland, from Australia, from Japan, from Nigeria to Saudi Arabia, sharing their best practices, which to me is what diplomacy is all about. Everyone coming together to the table, sharing what they believe in and what they believe is the best practice. Because it's not necessarily one party talking to another party and dictating what the terms should be. It's really us trying to come together to a table to realize how can we share our personal experiences to make sure we can all have a better future. So that's one particular moment I would say that was really eye-opening. In terms of what my experience meant to me, there's a lot I could say about this 3-month experience. Obviously, very, very, very grateful to have the opportunity to go to Vienna for a summer, let alone to be able to work for the Canadian mission to the international organizations. One particular, outcome of that summer was the fact that I just became more well-rounded. Obviously, I watched different news sources, the BBC, CNN, and whatnot, CBC, but then I started listening to Deutsche Welle, Al Jazeera, different news sources, and was more aware, for example, if there was a coup going on in a particular country, if there was protests going on in Iran or Lebanon, which I already knew ahead of time, but being even more aware of all the global issues made me realize that there's a lot of things going on, obviously, but there's a role that we can all play in spreading information and spreading awareness of the different crises. The second outcome I'd like to think about in terms of this experience was the fact that previously it has to do with advocacy and doing it in the moment. Previously, in my mind, I was just saying that perhaps I can go through grad school, I can go through law school, I can go through all these different experiences, and then eventually engage in advocacy, and engage in spreading awareness, which I think is super important. That being said, going through the summer, speaking to all these different interns who had their own different experiences, who are engaging in their own lovely things back home, aside from the internship, made me realize that, now I have to do my things now. I have to engage in activism now. I have to spread the word now about different issues that are going on in the world, as opposed to waiting, for example, when I'm more educated or going through grad school or law school. Really, we all have our own role to play, and going through the summer made me realize that I have my own role to play right now, and it happens in the moment as it is. But yeah, I think that's a good way to summarize what happened through my summer. It was an extraordinary time being able to speak to different diplomats, getting that kind of experience, realizing that diplomacy might actually be a tangible future for me. And realizing, I think one more point is that the diplomats actually do really care about these issues, and while you can go through the NGO route and the activism route that way, there is also diplomacy, which I previously thought was more highfalutin, more for privileged people, and it is to some extent. So I was very lucky to be able to get funding from MIEA to be able to do this experience. But I will say that the diplomats do genuinely care, and there is meaningful work that is happening that happened the entire summer with the Iran nuclear deal, with Canada's policy on drugs, opioids, and cannabis. These are things that we engage with on a daily basis to try to convince other countries as to change their policy, and it does make a tangible impact on people's lives.